is Rendezvous with the Best and I'm Hasha. Today we are back with the new season and this time with much more interesting and exciting topics. But before that, let's view a short clip to show an overview of today's discussion. With that, as for this week only, we will be discussing on topics which are related to language and communication. And today's topic is specifically on Malaysian's education system, Vernacular Schools. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with the term vernacular, it brings upon the definition of language or dialect spoken by the ordinary people of a different country or region. In Malaysia, parents looking for a primary school for their child can choose between Malay, Chinese, or Tamil language schools. The last two are known as vernacular schools. Now, the existence of vernacular schools is a very sensitive topic here in Malaysia. Those calling these schools to be abolished have at least reports lodged against them. There's no arguing that the popularity of these schools, as 60% of Indian school children go to Tamil language schools, whereas more than 90% of Chinese school kids go to Chinese language schools. Now, in a country where the two biggest ethnic minority groups make up 30% of the population, the continuation of these schools is hailed as fiercely guarded right. But critics of vernacular schools argue that institutions inadvertently increase racial division. The Deputy Prime Minister, Dr. Mohidin bin Yassin, who is also Minister of Education, quoted that the annual budget allocated to vernacular schools was similar to that given to national schools. On average, 2.235 million ringgit is allocated to each Chinese school annually, while each Tamil school receives 1.99 million ringgit. A national school on average gets 2.62 million ringgit annually. So there's not much difference if the allocations are compared. While admitting the national schools were given priority in policy making, Mohidin added that Chinese and Tamil schools were never treated differently. What do you know about this issue that you did not know before this presentation? Before this presentation, just as many people out there, I have viewed this issue as a cultural-based issue. After a lot of research, I have come to a conclusion that this issue is not only based on the cultural aspect, but is also based on the education system itself. For example, A. Saravanan from Malaysia Kini has said that
they do not want to send their children to national schools. You see, why? Because you see, from the Indian perspective, it is more of cultural and religious reasons, whereas the Chinese look at it more on a qualitative basis. You see, what kind of quality education they can get.
Is it easier for you to take a stand on this issue now than it was before the presentation? And why? It is definitely easier to take a stand now than before because this issue has more reasons to be not against it. Firstly, it has created awareness that vernacular schools were not only established for Chinese and Indian students, for there are many different races who actually put their school-going children in these schools. Secondly, sending children to these schools has helped them learn an extra language as it is an advantage in the future. Lastly, despite what the politicians and parents who are against this system have said, vernacular schools actually created a high standard in terms of their academic performance.
Raju has 3 school-going children. He sent 2 to a national school and 1 to a Tamil vernacular school. He is now wishing that he had sent the other 2 kids to a Tamil school also. He sees between them a huge difference.
And they're telling me that the Tamil school has improved a lot. So I got 2 children in other school. But when I put my son in standard 1 here, Tamil தெரியாத பையன் சீக்கிரமா தமிழ் கத்துக்கிட்டான் and he's improving. Compared to other school that my children goes, he does his homework a lot, he finishes his book and he comes back with homework. So I'm very happy with Tamil school now. I'm sad that I never sent my 2 children to Tamil school.
What do you think will happen in society if we continue to have this system? In my opinion, if we continue to have this system, I think children would learn from each other their differences in their respective cultures. Secondly, it offers unity. And lastly, Children learn a different language, and this can be an asset for them in future. With this education system, what do you think will be the outcome for intercultural communication and relationships between cultural groups? In my opinion, by having vernacular schools, I believe the unity among races will increase. I personally think that not only one language can unite people. The more languages the children learn, the better it is in terms of intercultural communication. In vernacular schools, there are Malay, Chinese, and also Indian students. When these children mingle together, they learn from each other the different cultures. During this process, it is easier for the children of different races and religions to bond as they are brought up to be not so stereotypical citizens. Thus, the relationship between cultural groups becomes stronger.